ain't gonna lie, we had a little thought about put me for a second. Right here looks good. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the club, the Hiatus Club. I'm your host, King Yosh, and tonight, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're gonna have a little conversation about grief and grieving, right? Why that particular topic? It's mostly life, right? Just something that everybody has to deal with, something that everybody deals with at some point or another. It's just how life is, right? But mostly because I do personally know a couple people that are currently going through the grieving process, right? And I feel like this is a perfect opportunity to have one of these discussions. Now, whether they join us tonight for the discussion, that's completely up to them. But as always, we are gonna talk just a little bit. Due to the nature of the topic, I want to keep this kind of brief, right? Especially because, once again, the current situation with things going on, stuff like that. But yeah, I just wanted to give y'all a heads up before we start our usual regular degular, right? Got my Evie on. Now we're gonna get into it. Y'all already know we gotta do the wellness check. What is the wellness check? If y'all haven't been here before, just 3 questions, nice and easy, just to gauge your overall well-being. I love it because it really gets the floodgates open, gets people to really talk about what's going on, what's on their minds, that kind of thing. But for this kind of situation, it's just a quick 1, 2, 3, answer to the best of your ability, to however you see fit, So question number 1 is, how are you feeling mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, right? You answer on a scale of 1 to 10. Usually people like to give an average. I'm definitely going to do that today by stating I'm feeling overall, I'd say about an 8 average, right? Spiritually, I'm usually good spiritually. I'm usually chilling. Emotionally, I'm okay, right? I would say it's like a 6 or a 7. If I really had to put a number to it, I would say it was a 7. But around 6 and 7 is where it sits at. Physically, I'm good. I did have a little back situation the other day, but I think I was just stretching too far, right? Nothing, a nice hot shower and actual proper stretch and some rest did not cure. But now that that's gone and over with, 2 thumbs up, you feel me? And finally, we have mentally. Mentally, I'm alright. I would say that would be an 8-2. While there is a lot going on, it's nothing overwhelming. It's not like I feel the world crashing down or anything like that, It's just one step at a time. Deal with what I can, with what I got, when I can, Just stick to the plan. That's all there is to it. So, Got a little adjust a little bit, and we gotta turn some air on. It's a little warm now. Hopefully that's not. That's not. It is. We'll be alright. If anything, I can always switch over to. Hold up. Let's do that instead. Unprofessional, Yosh, but it is what it is. And we all are completely unscripted. I go by how I feel in the moment. So let me turn that off. And let's get this going. Now, hopefully, this is a little bit better for y'all. And we not picking up on all this in the background. But we had to turn on some type of circulation in here. That air was getting a little stagnant anyways. Um, Also, another reason why I feel so good, I can't really show the cup, but I can show. Um, it's a nice little fruit smoothie, right? Pears and strawberries. Mm-mm. It is very refreshing. I'm not even gonna lie to you. But yeah. So on to question number two, ladies and gentlemen. Question number two is what's something you've done recently that made you feel good? Um, Besides just talking to people about whatever is going on that's going on with them for whatever, right? Um, and actually getting that, they confirmation like thank you or blah blah, just the appreciation for the effort that you put in. That obviously has been something that made me feel good recently, but also on a personal note, right? I recently got back into this game that I've been on and off playing for years, right? Um, and I accomplished a lot, right? I'm not going to go heavy into details about all of that, but it something that probably would have took someone else way like months, right? I managed to accomplish it in probably like 2 weeks, right? And it's only because I've been playing this game on and off for years, so obviously that months worth of grind that they would have put in, right? I already done it over this point in time and just consolidated all the rewards, I guess you could say, that I have accumulated um, into the goal that I set for myself. I've just done a lot recently for it, progressed a lot in it that the old me playing the game would have not put the time into to do, you know. But that actually has given me a new insight on the game, and actually makes me enjoy it a lot more. So yeah, that made me feel good, you know. Actually, it's like it's like that light bulb moment, you know, how you get that euphoric feeling, that eureka, oh snap, right? That's basically what it was. And when it clicked and I was able to do all that stuff, it was just like, mm, nice little pat on my back, right? So that made me feel good. And then we move into the final question of the night, which is what is something you're grateful for? I say this a lot, and honestly, it's probably the one thing I like in my core cherish very highly is just experience, right? Um, just to be able to always expand my circle of knowledge, right? Just to know more, even if it isn't through my own personal experience, right? Just to gain that experience. um, is is something that I very much very much am grateful for, because there's a lot of things that I've learned through life, through other people's experiences. There's a lot of things that I've avoided in life thanks to other people's experiences. There's a lot of accomplishments that I have because of other people's experiences. So I greatly appreciate those people and the experiences. I greatly appreciate the opportunities that I had to gain those experiences, right? And I definitely just appreciate and value experience in general. So, experience, this is what I'm grateful for. And I know whatever you guys are grateful for is just as good, if not better, right, of an answer, right? There's no wrong answers. Absolutely no wrong answers. It's personal, it's how you feel, right? What you think. You're just trying to have a nice little conversation and see where everybody's heads is at. But that that would actually wrap up the wellness, right? This is usually the point where we go to the chat, we have a little conversation with some people, but I'm not gonna lie, we kind of skipping through that tonight, because I definitely want to talk about this whole grief situation, right? So now, by definition, okay, grief is an experience, right? Um, it's the experience of loss. Now, there's levels to this, right? Because, for one, what one person would classify as a loss would not always be what classifies as a loss to someone else, right? Um, Also, the way that we go about dealing with grief, right, is different, and it varies depending on the, let's say, significance of the loss, right? Um, let's give an example, right? Um, if you just so happen to lose your car keys, right, or your wallet, right? Now, some people might not feel that is grieving, but it is you experiencing a loss, right? You might also feel, upset, worried, right? Um, Regretful, right? These are all part of the process, you know. Another that is one of those things that, depending on who you ask and how you look at it, it might not be significant, right? So the grief level isn't that high there. It's just, damn, I lost my wallet. That sucks, right? There's a lot of stuff in there I gotta go through, turning off cards and replacing stuff, that kind of situation, right? And then if we, I guess, take a couple levels up, right? If you have a pet that, I don't know, ran away, right, or passed away, right, that's another level. And depending on, once again, who you ask and how they look at the situation, right, this is where we get into the condolences part, right? The empathy part, because you might not have so much empathy for somebody that lost their wallet. Like, yeah, it sucks. Damn, that sucks, bro. I'm sorry that you got to go through that. But you don't really feel that, right? You personally wouldn't really feel that. I personally wouldn't really feel that. I mean, right? You might not feel what that person feels in that situation. But now let's take it to the whole pet situation, right? While not everybody has a pet per se or has had a pet, right, they can understand what it means to lose something that's close to you like that. Um, Unfortunately, we've all lost a loved one at some point or another in our lifetime, and that is the equivalent, right? So you can have the empathy there and really see, like, damn, um, it is it I might not be able to know exactly how you feel, but I can see why you feel the way you feel, right? Um, and now when it comes to grieving, right? When it comes to going through that experience, right? It's a it's a full body situation, right? And I'm talking full body, um, physically, mentally, right? Emotionally, right? Everything takes a toll when you start. Oh, excuse me. When you start to go through a grieving process, um, you start to lose track of time, right? Start to lose an interest in things become like not important. It really starts to become a struggle to do things that normally it would have been easy, right? Um, it's all part of the process, you know. Some people completely lose their appetite. Some people completely lose their willingness to interact. Their social levels become completely non-existent, right? And these are all acceptable, right? Now, let's talk about acceptable behavior when it comes to grieving, okay? Because there is no right or wrong way to grieve, right? You grieve however you grieve. You feel how you feel, and you gotta do something, right? Some people knew ahead of time. Some people had no ideas. Sometimes it just happens. Sometimes you are you know it's going to happen, but you're still not prepared for when it happens, right? But when it happens, when you get that message, when you receive that word, when you finally have that information that that significant person or thing to you or whatever, that significance is no longer there, right? Um, there's a lot of ways I've seen uh, people react, right? Um, the one most common is denial, and that's perfectly acceptable, right? You don't want to believe that this has happened, right? Especially if it was something that was, just a freak of nature, freak accidents. Things happen. It's a dangerous world we live in, right? Tomorrow's not promised today, as they say. Um, People crash out, right? Some people will crash out, right? Some people will get silent. Some people will cry. Majority of people will cry. Um, but like I said, there's no right or wrong way to go through a grieving process. There's just a socially acceptable way and a socially unacceptable way, right? Now, asking me personally, right, it's a very thin line to skate, right? Because you have to be completely aware of the fact that this person is going through a process of loss, right, and a life-changing situation. But at the same time, not to play devil's advocate, but also not to sound like an asshole, life goes on, right? Things still got to get done. Rent still got to get paid. Still got to go to work. These things still got to get done, right? Even though you don't want to, even though you just want to drop everything and curl up into a ball and, forget the world, those kind of things, right? And it's in these times where it's good to have a system and not like an actual system, right? And like friends and families and people that other people that care about you that are still here that understand, that you are grieving, that you do need the additional support, right, to be there for you and to be able to listen and all those kinds of things, just support, right. It's important to have these things in these situations because they help you get through the grieving process, because I won't lie to you, right? Um, I've seen it happen. I've had it happen personally, right? By yourself, it is extremely difficult to make it through that. And it will take a very long time, right? You might think one day, 3 months from now, all right, I'm good. But it'll hit you out of nowhere, right? Something will just remind you, something will just pop up, somebody that might say something, it'll just trigger something, right? You never know what might happen, right? Grieving is a process, and there is no estimated amount of time on how long it takes somebody to get through that process. You just got to get through it one step at a time, and it's good to have the support to assist in that, right? Like I said, everybody grieves differently, right? Some people grieve in a way that is socially unacceptable, right? These are the ways that we say are like dangerous to yourself, right? Self-destructive, right? Some people like to drink a lot. Some people like to get violent. Some people like to completely lose self, right? And all ability to uh, continue to do the basic functions to continue their own life, right? Those kinds of things. And we gotta have the support to be able to be there and be like, listen, man, like I understand what you're going through, but we're gonna have to get you up a little bit, you know, get you on your feet just a little bit. I know it's a struggle, but we gonna get there one step at a time. And I'll be here right along the way, all the way through, you know? It's good to have stuff like that. And I hope everybody has something like that, right? And if you don't, please just I don't know why you wouldn't. Just any type of basic level friendship should acquire that, but maybe you should look into something like that. And it don't even just got to be friends. They have places you can call, right? Hotlines and stuff like that. Online websites that you can go to that assist in stuff like this, right? You can go to a therapist, right? You can go to your doctor, right? They'll help you set you up with a therapist if you need to see some counseling or something like that, right? Right? Some people like to talk to strangers. If it works, it works. Whatever helps you, whatever gets you through it, as long as it's like to me, as long as it's under that socially acceptable bracket. It's nothing that's going to be harmful to yourself or to others, right? Obviously, uh, there is going to be some venom being spit out, right? People are emotionally volatile in these situations, so it is going to be a lot of misery love company situations, and a lot of things are going to be said that shouldn't have been said. There's going to be a lot of regret in the situations, but it's part of that process. There's a lot of anger and frustration that gets built up in there too, and people don't know how to let that out, right? Some people can't accept the process of life and death, right? Even if they understand it, you understand that no matter what, right? Anything living will someday die, right? Some people completely understand that, but still have a hard time accepting it, and that's okay. you know that's perfectly fine. But somehow, some way, we all gotta make it through the grieving process. Because it's gonna happen to all of us at some point. We're all gonna lose someone or something significant to us, and we're gonna go through it. Hopefully, it isn't frequent or the quantity is low for you, but unfortunately, it is inevitable. It is going to happen. And eventually, you also will be a part of that, leaving behind others to grieve for you. Hopefully, they will have the support and the knowledge, right, and experience to help them get through that, you know? And I ain't gonna lie, me personally now, I have a very unique, um, well, I don't think I want to say unique, right? I'll say unique in terms of maybe the people that I deal with, right? But I've understood and accepted the process of life and death since I was young. Excuse me. Um, I don't know what it is in particular, right? But it isn't that heavy of a burden for me, right? I do grieve. Don't get me wrong, right? I do miss people that are no longer here. I do, cry and all that stuff that comes along with the grieving process. That is a fact, right? But I definitely have a better acceptance of it than some people that I know, right? So I grieve differently. I grieve um, through memory, I guess, right? I like to um, just remember people for who they were, right? And try to take something um, that they would always say, always do, right? And kind of like mold that into something that I can take with me, right? Um, may it be a saying or just an outlook on life, right? Um, just something that will always help me just remember that person in my own way, right? Immortalize them in my own way. That's how I do it, right? Um, the tears don't always come, right? The pain doesn't always come, right? But the longing, yeah, right? That familiarity, right? Yeah. The one weird thing that I do say that I know a lot of people that experience loss, especially when it comes to like a family member or something that they deal with, is seeing that person places randomly or thinking you see that person, right? But it's not possible, but you definitely thought you saw them. Somebody else you mistaken them as kind of situation, right? Yeah, it happens. But it's a mind game. Your mind playing tricks on you. Um, still part of the grieving process at the end of the day. Um, it's part of that subconscious desire to just see them, right? And so you see them everywhere you go, kind of thing. And it's not even just lost through like a significant other's passing either, right? It could be somebody moving away. It can be the end of a relationship, right? These kind of things, right? Changing schools, right? Like, grieving happens in so many different ways, so many different forms, so many different levels, right? But the process of it and the way we can support each other, right, and get through it um, with as much minimal damage to our personal well-being as possible, right? That process is generally the same. Um, just apply more as necessary, you know? And I don't, I might, I don't know, I might not be the best person to talk about this, especially because of my personal outlook on this thing we call life in general. Um, but like I said, I do have the experience. Um, we all have the experience, or will all have the experience at some point, right? But most of it is just general knowledge, common sense, right? Everything that I'm saying is just something that you would just do if you saw somebody grieving, because it's just natural to want to help somebody in situations like that, to support somebody in situations like that, to see somebody not be so down, right? It is natural for us to want to uplift each other. It's just difficult to sometimes, but that's okay. We'll find a way to do it, whether it be today, tomorrow, next month, or next year. We'll get it. It doesn't matter. Just stick to it, right? And now, I ain't gonna lie to y'all. Like I said, this was definitely gonna be a quick one, a nice little short one about grief. Um, I am trying to keep a lot in while having a discussion about something that is a very sensitive topic. So we are going to cut it short. I do have other things that need to be attended to concerning said topic, so we are going to have to cut it short, unfortunately. Um, but if you are grieving, if you are going through something right now, once again, my condolences to you, to your family. Sorry for your loss. But please understand that feelings do change, right? They are not permanent and they do not define who you are. This is just a temporary situation that we all go through. It is a part of life, and it is okay to feel how you feel, right? I encourage you to speak out when you are ready to speak out about whatever it is that you feel, whatever questions you have, whatever concerns you do. I definitely recommend you find somebody that you feel comfortable with and have these conversations with them just to open up, let that out, and just help you heal, you know? Um, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm definitely going to let y'all go. Um, I appreciate y'all for stopping by and checking it out, having this brief conversation with us. Once again, my condolences to everybody out there that is going through a grieving process at the moment. Um, and with that being said, you already know we got to do the outro. Now, um, here at the club, we definitely do a homework situation, and that is always going to be self-love and self-care routines. Um, we definitely got a nice little situation coming up where we discuss more about self-care and self-love routines. So let's take a look out for that one. Um, you already know 3 rules, right? Don't take things personal. Be implicit with your words, and always love yourself. right? You are worth it. You are valued. So don't forget that. Now, whatever you got going on, ladies and gentlemen, whatever path that you are taking, that road, that goal that you're trying to get to at the end, please understand that grief is definitely going to be a part of that process, and it is definitely going to take some time out of the way that you try to get to that goal. It is not an issue, all right? Don't be mad about it. Take your time. It is definitely one of those moments where you do need to take your time, take your break, breathe, relax. You'll get through it, and then you'll get right back on that horse and go straight back to that grind, right? But you got to get through the grieving process first. You can't work wounded, my friend. Make sure you get some R&R, get some rest, and then you get right back to it. And then once you hit that goal, when you make it to the end, you get to look back at all the blood, sweat, and tears that you shed to get there, and just enjoy, because it's all going to be worth it in the end. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, y'all have a good night. Y'all have a good weekend. Be safe out there, and definitely, definitely, definitely have these conversations with people, bro. Go open up to somebody, man. I guarantee you're gonna feel so much better once you do. All right. From us at the club to everybody out there, we love y'all. Y'all stay safe.